Hi, everybody. This is Nikki Nellis. You may know me if you're in the DC area. I'm in food media. You probably see me on TV, hear me on radio. I'm definitely online. I'm in print. And of course, like everybody else, I'm on social media. In years past, I have been a part of this massive celebration, International Sous Vide Day. 2 years ago, we were at the French Embassy. Last year, we were rocking it out at the Conrad Hotel. And this year, like most things, I'm in my house. And we're doing it differently. And that's okay, because just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, there may be some silver linings that we find along the way. So we are here thanks to the brains at Cuisine Solution, and to celebrate Dr. Bruno Grissoz and the 50 years that he has dedicated to mastering sous vide and bringing it to life around the world. So it is legit International Sous Vide Day 2021. And let's be honest, COVID has rocked the food and beverage industry to the absolute core. And I'm so lucky because I have a panel with me today of industry leaders and trailblazers who have partnered with Cuisine Solution over the years. And they're going to share during this panel not only how they use sous vide cooking and incorporate it into their lives, but what they're doing now to help feed the world through charities, how they're surviving in their restaurants, how they're doing. So I don't feel like my panel really needs any introduction, but I'm going to tell you who's on. Chef Daniel Boulud, you know him as a restaurateur, internationally known. La Latina herself, chef and author, Grace Ramirez, and Chef Kyle Connaughton of Single Thread Farms, who he and his wife do amazing things. She is the head farmer, and they do incredible, incredible work. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. And instead of everybody sort of being bored by me and reading your bios, I'd like each of you to please give a short introduction to yourself. Chef Grace, can we start with you, please?
Sure. Well, thank you guys for having me. I feel very honored to be here because I'm such a sous vide fan. I used to be a director producer for television, and I directed shows like Throwdown for Bobby Flay for the Food Network for many years. And then I became a chef myself. And then it's a very long story, but I moved to New Zealand where I decided to really tackle where food came from and how to do, really kind of own the whole aspect of the culinary process, from hunting, gardening, fishing, etc. And that kind of changed my life as a chef. And then I became a judge on a very famous TV show over there called My Kitchen Rules. Published my first cookbook, and then had 4 TV shows I did around the world, including De Chuparse los Dedos for Discovery en Español, and Destino con Sabor in Food Network Latin America, as well as other cooking TV shows that I used to do here in the States. But I've always worked doing some social, responsibility work, and I've been privileged enough to work with World Central Kitchen since Puerto Rico. We did Puerto Rico, Bahamas, Venezuela, Colombia, and now I was one of the leaders of the COVID-19 World Central Kitchen initiative. So I feel like I have 2 lives. I feel like I have my World Central Kitchen life, which I love, and it's what keeps me fueled to do my TV catering, whatever, La Latina life. So that's a bit about me.
Excellent. And Kyle, Chef Kyle, can you tell us about, and your bio is fascinating. You're really doing incredible work. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, my name's Kyle Connaughton, and I own and run Single Thread, which is in Healdsburg, California, which is kind of the heart of Sonoma wine country in Northern California. And we've had a 5-acre farm. We've just recently purchased a new 24-acre farm that my wife runs. So really everything that we do here in the restaurant is driven by my wife's farming and her agricultural practices. And right now on our new farm, we're actually building a a complete permaculture center that's really dedicated to sustainable agricultural practices, with a real sort of focus on biodiversity. And we're here in wine country, where the most of the crops here grown in our agricultural community are grapes. So what we do is we're in amongst a lot of vineyards, and we bring biodiversity to a sort of monocropped area of grapes, and that's really important for not only for the food and the produce that we grow, but for the sort of health and vitality of the whole agricultural region. So our farm is in the Dry Creek Valley, and we grow everything from our produce, fruits, vegetables, orchard. We're actually just putting a truffle orchard in right now, mushrooms, flowers, everything. And my wife's kind of does all of that with her sustainable practices, and all of what we grow on our farm informs what we do on the menu. So every night, in normal operations, we have an 11-course menu that's completely driven by our farm, and all the decisions that we make creatively from the kitchen are driven by what's at the peak season, and our farm is harvesting every day, and that's all coming right into the kitchen and going right out to the guests that evening. And so now with our farm expansion, we have the opportunity to expand our agricultural footprint beyond just the restaurant. And like Chef Grace said, it's kind of have also two lives as well. We cook about 1,000 donation meals here a week for an organization called Sonoma Family Meal, and a big part of our expansion agriculturally is not only what's we need for the restaurant, but also expanding the produce that we grow for donation meals, and a number of different food banks and other chefs who are combating food insecurity in our communities.
Well, that is an amazing organization. And I just want to say, before we go to Chef Daniel, it does amaze me that chefs in restaurants right now are struggling so much, and yet they're still out there feeding people, really the people in need. The community it makes me tear up just knowing how hard everybody works, because nobody knows how to feed people quite like chefs. Chef Daniel, can we talk about you a little bit? And you have two big charity organizations that you work with as well.
Yes. So I'm Chef Daniel Boulud, and I've been a New Yorker now for almost 4 decades, and in the same zip code, actually, since 4 decades. So that's pretty loyal to New York and to this neighborhood. And I created Restaurant Daniel 27 years ago, and I had a chance to move it from its original space 5 years later, and move it to where I was the chef for 6 years, which was at the location of Le Cirque. And it has been now in this location for 23 years. So this is the mothership of my business. And to that, I have added a lot of siblings, from Café Boulud to Bar Boulud to Épicerie Boulud, Boulud Sud, TV Bistro, and Brasserie Boulud, and Feast and Fête, the catering. And did I guess that I was going to do all that when I came to New York? No, but I think, New York is the kind of city where the wind blows a lot. Also, I think the strengths of teams around you, the team you build, and how much you want to try to preserve them and give opportunity to grow. And beside mentoring, I think mentoring has always been an important thing for me. And so about 12 years ago, with Thomas Keller, Jérôme Bocuse, and a group of friends all over the US, we created Mentor BKB. So at the beginning, it was about managing the American team to the Bocuse d'Or every 2 years, but it was also trying to bring young talent to compete among each other and give them, a sense of not only competition, but discipline and excellence and creativity and teamwork. And so it was well, but it was not enough. We felt that we should have a better mission than just do that. And we kept raising money and gave scholarship. But it was not a scholarship, really. It was a grant. And we have been distributing, more than 200 plus grant to young kids in the US, where they could take 3 months sabbatical in a way and still earn their salary and cover all their expense and make sure that the person they work for were really protected from having them deciding to go and Japan and spend 3 months to perfect their learning, or to go to Denmark or France or anywhere. And we have really rewarded quite many young cooks like this, and we will continue. And we have done that in all kind of level of chef as well. And so mentoring was great. But beside that, also the charity work. And the charity, I've been co-president of City Meal on Wheels for 10 years. Mm-hmm. We have created Food First, which we made quite many meals to World Central Kitchen at the beginning of the pandemic. And we are gifting also city meals with about 5,000 meals every week right now. I continue to cook downtown in my kitchen. And that's me as a New Yorker.
Well, you have the accent, so nobody would guess that you were from anywhere else. And I want to kind of bring this back now to International Sous Vide Day. It's what's brought us together here. How did you use, each of you, if you could talk for just a couple seconds about how you use sous vide, let's say pre-pandemic, like how did you find it? How did you incorporate it into your cooking? Why, Grace, you said earlier, I love sous vide. I mean, how did you find sous vide? How did it work for you?
Well, I think for me it was culinary school. You know, we were getting introduced to all this new technology of what was trending, and sous vide was, I got introduced there and I fell in love with it. I was like, what? Like, first of all, it's a very kind of, you know, my grandmother used to slow cook a lot of things, and I would always, you know, she would always put something in the stove at night and then have it ready in the morning. So I was used to that kind of mindset. You know, and I love precision and I love consistency. So I think that for me, it was kind of like, you know, I saw this machine. I did culinary school 12 years ago, but I was like, oh, wow, there was this controlled environment that I just get to program, and then it does its thing. I don't need to, you know, because in my grandma's cooking, it was kind of like, okay, let's pray this doesn't, let's pray this works, right? And we don't start a fire or something like that. But then just the notion of having, you know, a really controlled environment, that it was precise and it was slow cooking at low temperature, and that you were always going to get that consistent result was fascinating for me. And then, you know, when you do culinary school, you work at restaurants, and I had the opportunity to purchase one for my home, which was, and then cut to World Central Kitchen, where you have an operation where you're, you know, supervising 100,000 meals a day. And, you know, one of our hospitals needed very early food, and we did, one of our vendors, Elegant Affairs, purchased, you know, egg bites from Cuisine Solutions, like about 3,000 of them every morning were served to frontline workers. So it's kind of been this fascinating love affair of having this technology be at culinary school, kind of like this, you know, robot that I was fascinated by, to this, now it's part of my life.
Well, I think what's interesting is that, you know, it started in the highest of kitchens, right? It was Michelin touted, all the best restaurants, if sous vide something was on their menu. And now we've seen in the last 10 to 15 years, not only people being able to do it at home, right? But also there are products now that you can buy, or, you know, that's where the donations come in, and it can help with charities because it's so shelf stable. Chef Daniel, would you mind talking a little bit? You've been using sous vide for a very long time. Will you talk about how, you know, you found out about it, what fascinated you about it, and how you incorporated it into your kitchens when you did?
Well, I know sous vide since the 70s. That's how young of a chef I am. And I remember already there was kind of a revolution in France because, while technology was not maybe a word used then in the kitchen, they were such a sense of precision and encasement of flavors and the low temperature, which, of course, in French cooking, cooking at low temperature existed. When you do confit, when you do all kind of things, but never to the extent of having it like that, except maybe poulard en vessie, when you do in a pig bladder. That was kind of a way to cook a chicken at a very low heat with just steaming water for hours and keeping that pig bladder hot so that could transfer the heat and flavor and all that. But sous vide, we have been using it not extensively, but always creatively. And there's either protein, like right now we have a culotte de boeuf with olive and truffle, who is prepared first. It has a pre-cuisson sous vide, and then after we finish it on the grill. Of course, we balance between the technology of controlling low temperature cooking and sous vide as well.
Chef Kyle, let's talk about how you incorporate it in what you do, because sustainability is so important to you, and food waste, and given with your farm and all the work you're doing, how did you come about incorporating sous vide and working with Sous Vide Solutions?
Yeah, I first encountered working with sous vide when I was cooking in Japan in the early 2000s, and I was kind of just a little bit of entry into that. And then in 2006, I went to the Fat Duck, and I ran the experimental kitchen for Hess and Blumenthal at the Fat Duck for 5 years. And really my job there was to do development, researching new methods and technologies. And we spent a lot of time working on sous vide because like the chefs are saying, is about that precision, about that control, about the ability to sort of replicate those results and get flavors and textures that in other techniques are just not possible. And that's where I also first met Gerard from Cuisine Solutions and Dr. Bruno. And they came out and did like a week-long seminar with myself and the development team, some of the chefs, really understand in depth the technique and how to get the most of the technique, safe application of the technique. And we spent a lot of time on that. It really became a big part of our repertoire there, and a really important part of the work that we were doing, and really exploring the sort of precision temperature aspects of that. And shortly after that, in my time at the Fat Duck, I worked on the Modernist Cuisine series, and with Nathan Myhrvold and an amazing team there at the lab there in Seattle that created that series. And again, that was a lot of looking at and getting sort of deep into, along with Cuisine Solutions as the guide there, into the technique and what was possible for the technique. So it's always been a big part of my cooking and career, and I was very fortunate to be able to have the time to not just do it in a restaurant setting, but to really do that in a development setting, to really look closely and deeply at the technique and understand the relationship of time temperature that Chef Daniel's talking about, the curves and how to leverage the technique in the best possible way. And you mentioned earlier, and this is very true, is that it is not something exclusively for the best restaurants of the world. You have these applications for large scale food production, for creating safe meals that are contained and can be distributed out in in all kinds of different environments, whether it's a disaster environment or whatever. So the containment and the safety around the product is so incredible, and the ability to have quality. It's a very difficult thing to achieve in the world of food, to be able to have this consistency and this sort of replication in a safe sort of packaged environment that's easy to transport, easy to store, easy to retherm. So there's so many different applications from so many different things, and I think sous vide is kind of seen as something to the public as this really high-end thing, but that there's all kinds of different applications, down to the egg bites and all kinds of different applications in hospitals and large-scale food service and everything. So a lot like Chef Daniel is saying is, we use the technique quite a bit in the restaurant, and combine that with other techniques as well. And I really love to have things where you're getting the precision temperature and the consistency that you want, and the ability to cook something at low temperature, and then maybe we're finishing it in the hearth. And for a lot of guests and people, when they come into our kitchen at Single Thread, they say, oh, because of your background, I thought this was going to be all like lab equipment and things in here, and you have a big open fireplace, and we cook in a lot of Japanese clay pots called donabe, and kind of surprised to see these more classic type of or ancient type of cooking techniques. And really what it is, it's about using the best technique for the job. And so, we have all the precision temperature cooking things, going on in combination with these things. And oftentimes I think there's this view of like, it's one or the other. Like you go this very traditional classic way in your cooking, or you go this really modern way. And I think what we've really figured out over really the last decade is I think is that there's this amazing blend of techniques, and that you can get leverage in our, in a professional kitchen environment. You can leverage the best of what the sous vide technique offers, along with other techniques as well. And they don't have to be mutually exclusive. They can oftentimes be aligned, and that's really how in our kitchen we view it.
Well, Kyle, let me just ask, since you really know the science of it, could you just very quickly explain to the layperson how sous vide does work?
Well, what's very unique with sous vide, and of course, the word translates to under pressure, under vacuum, and so there are this sort of somewhat of a delineation between what is sealed under pressure in a vacuum sealed in plastic, which kind of creates this like second skin to the product, which allows for the energy transfer to happen through precision temperature. Water, but then you also just have that precision temperature, side of it, the actual cooking, cooking side of it. So, that's sort of the difference between actually vacuum sealing something and then cooking it under pressure, or simply vacuum sealing to use that to, compress a fruit like Chef was talking about, or to use for storage, versus maybe putting something that is just wrapped in plastic wrap and gently poaching it into that liquid. So, those are the two different aspects. One is the vacuum sealing, and one is the precision temperature cooking. And both of those can be used and done independently or align in one process. So, really what it's about is about getting precise results and things that you can replicate, and leveraging the combination of time and temperature, whether that's a very short period of time to get maybe a specific low temperature that you want, say on a piece of fish, and maybe that gets finished in some other way in a pan and on the hearth, or not, or served directly, from that, or maybe some of the searing and the flavor development is done beforehand, and then the sous vide portion is done after and served, directly from that precision, temperature. Or we can leverage the time and temperature combinations for more long-term cooking. So things where you would traditionally see braises, or long cooking, where you're talking about short ribs, or pork belly, or something that you would cook for a long period of time. You can really leverage the time and temperature combinations to get really good breakdown of connective tissue, get some interesting textures that you wouldn't be able to normally get. I think the classic example of that is the 72-hour short rib, where you have something that looks and eats like a steak, but is also braised at the same time. I mean, this is a really interesting sort of like hybrid technique. I mean, normally you would have very short cooking of like a steak, searing or grilling, a dry heat cooking technique like that, or you'd have like a long, slow, moist heat cooking technique like braising. And those are going to yield you two very, very different textures. But sous vide gives you this unique ability to kind of combine those two things into this like best of both worlds, which is often done with the long term. So I kind of break, the sous vide cooking techniques into looking at that as more short term, very, very quick, talking, minutes, or very long term, where you're talking hours and hours. And both are achieving really unique results.
It's so helpful because, for those not behind the stove, there's sort of this thought process about sous vide because it seems so special, or maybe difficult to manage. And actually, Chef Michel Richard, who I loved dearly, he came to my studio with that 72-hour short rib and got juice all over the studio. But it was delicious, and he was such a character. I miss him dearly. Grace, I'd like to pop to you for a sec. Okay, everybody's using sous vide. We're all doing our lives. February 15th, 2020. So much is happening. Like, it's going to be a great year. And then March happens. And everything's changed. Everything's changed for the restaurant industry. Everything has changed for the food world. We're all looking at things in very different ways. Everybody's had to adjust. So, Grace, tell us a little bit about how you adjusted, and especially your work with World Central Kitchen.
Yeah, well, my story is very unique because I was in end of February. I was in Rwanda volunteering. Like, it's kind of like, wow. I do these kind of trips where I volunteer at a village.
I want to be your intern. I want to hang with you, just so.
I don't think you do. It's too intense. It's too intense. It's exhausting and it's very intense. But I was in Rwanda volunteering at a beautiful villa where they take on kids that come from vulnerable families and communities, and we were teaching cooking classes. We're in a beautiful, trip, and I was gonna come, and because I usually do these kind of things, I have to do one trip like that, and then I get on this kind of very fiery demos and all this stuff, and then I was coming back from Rwanda. Of course, I got back and I had COVID. And yeah, so I got really, really sick right at the beginning of it. This was early March. I have asthma, so it was pretty brutal. I was really on top of it. Thank God I'm a chef. I cooked a lot of, I was like on those bone broths and just all this home remedies. And I was like, this thing is not gonna beat me. It was funny because I was dying and I was cooking because I was like, I need all those nutrients I can get. And I was actually using my sous vide for a lot of it. So then, finally, for 20 days, I was really sick, but Nate, the CEO of World Central Kitchen, which I volunteer with them in all these different initiatives, he said,
Nate Mook, who is like, if Jose Andre is like a fireball, he's like the trails of the fireball behind him. He's an amazing guy as well.
Exactly. And if Nate or Jose calls, you have to pick up. So that I picked up the phone and I go, and Nate goes, Grace, can you help? And I'm like, yes, of course, Nate. And he goes, but I'm really sick. And he goes, great, get it over with because you have to go feed New York. So I'm like, okay, but first I have to get better. So, they're like, no, just start working from home, figure it out. We have a lot of people to feed. We started in the Bronx with 500 meals, then got a grant from the Bloomberg Philanthropies with $7 million to feed 16 public hospitals. And we got the operation from 500 meals to 100,000 meals a day. So it's, and then let me just say, I mean, it's been bizarre because I was going to be booked and I was not going to be home from March till literally October. It was just going to be, I was going to be flying in and out, in and out, in and out. And then I was here. And, but the beautiful thing was about working with World Central Kitchen and this initiative was that, I got to work with Chef Daniel very early on. And it felt like we were really helping the community. We were not only helping feed frontline workers and feed the community, but we were literally saving restaurants from closing. I mean, we saved in the city itself, over 250 restaurants that if not, they would have had to close.
It's so brilliant that it was able to be executed in such an amazing way.
Yeah, it was very different from, you're right, from our original initiatives, because I was used to going to the Bahamas or Puerto Rico and cooking 10,000 meals a day up in a mountain or, or in a disaster zone, right? We're a chef relief team. So we were used to natural disasters or political catastrophes like in Venezuela and Colombia. But then it was very different because I didn't need to go cook. I just needed to be in charge of logistics and coordinating it and identifying where the need was and who can cook these meals, and to have a very kind of you know, it was a flow of food trucks, restaurants, caterings, companies. So it was a lot to manage during, 9 months, 8.4 million meals later, just in New York.
Well, and Danielle, you got very involved too. And I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I know you're this very famous chef and you feed people, but I don't think people recognize how your generosity and how involved you are and how you bring other chefs on board. And, I mean, chefs have become, you're not just stuck in the kitchen. Do you know what I mean? And you're not just celebrities on TV. You,
but I think being involved with the community, I think, is not a PR coup. It's something you believe in and you really want to support. And like Grace or Kyle, we each live in a community, or for Grace, I think the world is their oysters because you have done a lot. But it's I don't know. I always felt that it was important for me to. I remember 9/11 in New York. It was really, really shattering for many of us. And yet, the next day we were online already producing almost the night of, and the next day, within basically 48 hours, we had a boat downtown and starting to ladle 2,000 meals a day overnight, because there was a rescue operation at the time. They were looking for any hope of finding people, and we had to be in the zone there to do it. And I don't know. I think it's our responsibility as not only a good citizen, but also as a chef, because we have ability to be able to, like you say, supporting the restaurant in New York. Yes, each restaurant was not getting too much money to make a meal, but we have the ability to make a good meal for $5, $6, $7. We can make a very nutritious, good meal for people. And I think that, to me, that's about the beauty of being a chef, is then I can give you a $100 meal, but I can also make you a $1 meal. And I think that's something who matters so much for us, to be able to shift and also the support of our team. They take so much pride, everyone. And I see with World Central Kitchen, the operation they have organized among volunteers, and the volunteers, but someone need to direct those volunteers. Someone need to give them direction, but that's all they ask. They want to help. They want to contribute as well. And I think all this goodwill will not be able to happen without the support of big company as well. Cuisine Solutions, during the pandemic, still today, they have helped me during making those meals for World Central Kitchen or City Milan Wheel. They have helped me so much. Gerard, he was always on the line. Gerard, tell me what you have so I can figure it out what I can make. Maybe you're gonna send me grains, or you're gonna send me something pre-made, like even a polenta or a salmon, because we needed to vary the meal all the time. And for example, with World Central Kitchen, we were serving the nurse at the hotel as they were turning their shift. They could either go to work with the meal or come back and have a warm meal. So we wanted to make sure that they had very good, tasty meal, but I needed to change my menu all the time, and I didn't have time to fillet all the salmon, to prep all the salmon. So with Cuisine Solutions, and also they have been fantastic at the price they could give it to us. They say, listen, we'll help you. We'll do, rock bottom costs. So this way we can really support you. And so I think this collaboration of human being together, I think, makes things happen. And I think that's the beauty of our business. I think we are in the hospitality business to keep people happy. And we have a great fraternity among each other. in all field and all level. And, it's not because we are maybe fine dining chef that we don't share with someone who has a little corner store the same, the same ambition and the same goal. So, and the volunteer, the customer, the generosity of our customer, the generosity of our friends, the generosity of the companies in New York. You mentioned the Bloomberg Foundation. I mean, they have been fantastic also on many fronts as well to support New York City, and any effort was goodwill.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say, what is also important, and I'm sure Kyle can speak to this a little bit. There's also restaurants support. They are the foundation for not just the employees in their buildings, but also farmers and linens people, and the liquor people and the wine people. I think a lot of people are drinking wine, I have to say, but the list does go on and on about how many other businesses the restaurant business keeps afloat. So
Sure.
I'm sort of curious, since we're all East Coasters over here and you're out on the West Coast, like how are you seeing that out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't matter what type of restaurant you are. What you said is completely, true. It's just sort of different for everyone. But, I think there's a lot of focus being put on the restaurants, where restaurants are really hurting right now. Absolutely. And obviously the restaurants themselves and the restaurant workers, the hospitality, workers. I mean, restaurants is one of the largest, employers, in this country. And of course they're suffering, but there is a whole ecosystem behind that. I think that people don't really realize. You do have all of the suppliers, and you have all of the farmers who are involved with that. When the first shutdown came down, we have a small duck farmer who raises these Duclair ducks for us, and they only raise them for us, here locally. We've been working with them very closely, and she was standing with me in the walk-in in tears, thinking that all of a sudden we were going to stop buying these ducks from her, and what was she going to do? That was her livelihood, and she just thought that was over. And we just found ways through everything that we were doing to make sure that we continued to purchase them from them, even though the restaurant had, was being closed. So you have all these small farmers and independent, farmers as well, who, work directly with chefs and restaurants, but, so many other trades that are involved with that too. And, it for us in our area, where it's, a lot of people are coming to wine country, to visit. When a lot of guests will come and visit our restaurant, and then they'll go to other businesses around us, the cafe, the gallery, the salon, all these things. And, we have a really good understanding where we are here in Sonoma County of the interconnectivity of our businesses, because in addition to the pandemic, we've also been experiencing really bad fires. It affects everyone. So, we're really used to that. Is like when the visitors aren't coming for a reason, it doesn't just affect our business that the visitors are coming for, but all the other businesses that may, touch around that. And you have people in the trades, plumbers, electricians who are coming to do work, people are coming to do repairs and everything like that. When all of that stops, the ripple effect that it is, to affect all kinds of different businesses is really huge. So I know a lot of focus is put kind of really exclusively on the challenges that restaurants are having, but the challenges that restaurant experiences go way beyond just the four walls of our restaurants.
And can you talk a little bit about the charity that you've been working with out there, and how you've gone about feeding people?
Yeah, well, we work with a much more sort of like locally, exclusively sort of local, charity here. It's called Sonoma Family Meal, and that was really born from our 2017 fires. And when we woke up, one morning in October in 2017, and realized the sort of loss that had happened in our own community, with over 5,000 homes that had burned, and so many people that were displaced through the fires. And as they were kind of spot fires were continuing everywhere, there was a lot of confusion as, people were sort of fleeing these areas and going to shelters, had overnight in the middle of the night, woke up to their homes on fire, had very little time to get clothing or personal effects or anything, and we're kind of gathering in these areas, it was like, what's going to, happen, and how are we going to be as a community be taking care of these people? We were really caught off guard, in general, with that. And, we came in that morning and said, okay, well, obviously the restaurant will be closed. Let's start notifying guests. But the staff was showing up, and they said, well, we've got a kitchen full of products, and we have a farm full of produce. There's going to be need. Let's start cooking. And, we were on Twitter, and, with, people saying, where are the shelters happening? What is the food? And sort of slowly and surely, but actually very quickly, we were just sending food, and that was produced. And from that, some really amazing people got together and formed Sonoma Family Meal to sort of deal initially with when we have fires up here. And we did a lot of work about preparedness, about resiliency, about how to come together, about how to jump into action when these things happen. And we did a lot of fundraising with that, and connected quite a bit with Chef Thomas Keller and Christopher Kostow from Meadowood, and did a lot of fundraising together, and just looked at wine country as a whole. And, through sort of fire times, we continued to do things that were for displaced victims, but also for the first responders as well, to sort of take care of food needs from that. And then that really evolved into how to help the community in need during the pandemic. We're servicing a lot of out of work hospitality workers. For us here in wine country, it's a lot of agricultural workers and their families who are being hit very hard with this, as well as due to the knock-on effect that I was talking about. And seniors is a really sort of vulnerable group who are under really strict quarantines and have very limited resources. So getting food directly to seniors in their homes in a sort of no contact way. So that's really what we've been focusing on, here in our area is really how can we take care of those communities, and actually keep restaurant teams working to produce these meals, as well as keeping suppliers paid and farmers paid, and making sure that these things are all getting to them. Because for a lot of the farmers, they're used to working directly with restaurants. Once that business is gone, they're not like just prepared to like put their things into a grocery store all of a sudden. So it's obviously it's really about the end recipient of that, but it's also about this whole ecosystem as I'm doing. And I think people think about a lot of the giving of these meals that we're all talking about this food, about oftentimes people think about it as just getting calories to people, and that's sort of like your baseline need is that you need to get meals. People simply need food in certain times, either for a short period of time in a sort of disaster scenario, over a longer sustained period of time, like we're in right now, or frankly like that we're always in at any time, for many people in this country and around the world. But above that, I think what we can do as chefs is not only provide the sustenance that people need, but to do it in a way that makes people also psychologically feel taken care of. But also, it's really important that food is served with dignity. It's not about just putting, just prepackaged, processed food into something and saying that's a meal. That may get someone the calories that they need, but it's really important, as well, that we're using our talents as chefs, not only from a culinary perspective, but from a hospitality perspective, as Chef Daniel was saying, earlier, we're chefs, we take care of people, it's what we do. To think about what people are going through and how we can serve, food to them that gives them a sense of normalcy, allows them to get together around the table with family, to feel that same love and care that's put into an 11-course menu at a 3 Michelin star restaurant, that's put into, a meal that they may take and heat up at home, that they can have, that sense of normalcy, that sense of community, that sense of family, and that's all done, in a way that has a lot of dignity, to it as well, because the psychological, effect of going through these things can be, very difficult as well. And so as much of that we can restore normalcy to people's lives, I think the better. And that's what's amazing about what World Central Kitchen does and what Chef Danielle does. And a lot of his work through the years with Meals on Wheels and stuff, like at the heart of it, it's really about taking care of people.
We are sort of wrapping up, and I'd like to hear what each of you think about trying sous vide at home. I mean, Kyle, you have the science of it. Chef Daniel, I feel like you're going to be like, no, come to my restaurant and I'll sous vide for you. So I'd like to hear what you each sort of think about doing it at home.
Well, for me, I am a fan of cooking sous vide eggs at home. And I think that if you love eggs,
It's sort of thing that I think people are like, but I can cook eggs. So they don't understand what the sous vide, why sous vide an egg of all things.
well, you have control of the yolk, which is for me fascinating, right? And you can time it into a way that how runny do you want that yolk? Because eggs are fascinating, right? You know, we can all poach an egg or hard boil an egg, but
speak for yourself, Grace. Not everybody can poach an egg or, you know, hard boiled an egg. Some people do not have success with that.
Well, then that's the thing. That I got my mother. My mom is a terrible cook. My grandmother was an amazing cook, but my mom is a terrible cook. And I thought I was doomed by the superpowers of the kitchen by being a bad cook. But no, it ended up that my grandmother said, I'll pass them on to you. But I got my mother, who runs this meditation center, to sous vide eggs. And now she has 50 perfect eggs all the time, thanks to sous vide at home. So I think that she has control of that yolk. She has control of how people want those eggs. Do you want that yolk runny? Do you want it more, do you want it harder? Because remember, like, we just have to think of sous vide, that it's this water bath that that cooks at a very controlled temperature, right? So, and we did this experiment with her that I timed it, like by a minute or two, you do see the difference of that yolk, of that runny, beautiful yolk. And I think that even if you just get it, I mean, sous vide, you can sous vide, proteins are a beautiful thing, a salmon, and then you finish it off, like Chef was saying, you know, you have a piece of meat, a tougher piece of meat, and then you finish it off, like I've done skirt steak that I just sous vide, and then I just finish it, I give it like one quick hard sear at the end, and it's just so juicy, so tender, and so beautiful. But I think sous vide at home, it's like anything. It's like any kind of piece of technology. At first, it's going to feel like very intimidating, but once you get the hang of it, you realize how easy, and you're like, oh, this just changed my life. Like I'm never going to have another egg that is not sous vide again. Why?
What do you have to say about that? I mean, do you think that it is a food tech that can be brought into people's homes?
Of course, and I don't think it's a big investment, as well as now some companies have created some sort of micro version of the sous vide machine, and as well as the emerging cooker is not complicated as well. And there's enough book written on sous vide. There's enough information on sous vide that no one should be scared from it. What's very important is what you put in the bag. The quality of what you put in the bag is key to the result of what you're gonna do. If your salmon is not fresh enough, if you try to put some seafood, you really have to study. I think it's inevitable than studying well. Studying the basic is very important. And then after also studying, the wonderful thing I think is exploring flavor with it. Exploring flavor, as long as you have understand the basic of cooking and the result you get from it and how to apply it. Then after the range of flavor are fantastic. And I think it does bring an extra layers of pleasure, extra layers of texture, extra layers of things you may not be familiar with, but you kind of love it. And certain meat, I mean, like I've done, I love squab roast on the bone. I think it's delicious, it's juicy, but cooking squab sous vide for me has this luxurious texture and this like perfect pink, and the meat is tender, is tasty, is delicate. And then after you finish the application, depends on what you want to do with it. If it's going to be served cold in a salad, let's say, or if it's going to be served grilled or roast, or in a crust as well. But at least you note and precision. I mean, the precision of it is just so reassuring in a way. I don't think sous vide was adapted by chef just because the cooks had inconsistency in their work, but it's definitely reassuring to know that a cook, as long as he follow the guideline, will bring consistency to the work. Absolutely. Bar Boulud at the mother end, we were a little bit more, classic French, and we had some application of sous vide and all that, but Diner, the restaurant of Eston, they basically had a wall of emerging bath with different temperature, and they were doing a lot of different things sous vide, and I'm sure they were doing a lot of your recipe, Kyle, because they had the menu was really geared into this technology as well, and that was really impressive to see that. So I think it's a question also of the chef, what kind of menu you want to also carry. And it's not to every cuisine, it's not to every chef, but I think every cuisine can adapt sous vide, but is not every restaurant who is able to do it so well.
Well, and I will say for the uninitiated, you can also buy Cuisine Solution products, which are already sous vide.
Mais oui.
And they're very good. So that would be where I get my egg bites. But
I love, for example, the lamb shank from Cuisine Solution. Gérard made me taste also a vegan chili from Cuisine Solution, and it was an amazing product. I don't know the recipe, but the result was amazing.
Well, I think what's great about the products, and this is totally not where I was expecting to go, but what's great about the products, especially during the pandemic, is that they are so shelf stable. So I can have them in my freezer. Totally. And, if I couldn't get to the store when things were really bad or things were shut down, I knew that I had a really good product that I could either, I could take the red pepper sauce and make a red pepper soup, or I could do other things with them or serve them as is. We do have to wrap up the panel. So I'm going to ask you each to answer just a quick question. As we look to 2021, right? As we, thankfully, we're all healthy. Grace is healthy. We're all healthy and safe and surviving. What do we see for 2021? What are your hopes in 30 seconds or less? Kyle, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, I really hope for our industry that we're able to get back on track with dining in restaurants and get people back to work and working safely, so that we can support these these ecosystems, and we can all use lessons that we learned during this and the importance that hospitality and restaurants and these things play in our lives. And I think that people are being deprived of that for the first time in their lives, the ability to go out and enjoy a nice meal at a restaurant, and so that we can really understand the importance that these moments, not just for the cuisine, but to get together around the table and enjoy good food and wine with friends, and really place a lot of value on what these experiences bring to our lives, besides just sustenance of a meal, but how they enrich our lives. And I hope that from this experience, we all gain that appreciation of how important that really is for us.
I agree with you. I hope everybody can remember when we go out to dine, when things return to whatever that new normal looks like, that appreciation and gratitude for being able to dine out without being spaced or distanced or dipped in sanitizer is available, is still felt. Grace, how about you? You going to be traveling again? Are we going to get you on a plane? Where are you going?
I think this is a renaissance for all of us. I mean, as devastated as I am to see our industry the way it is right now, and we're in trouble. Especially now in New York, we are in a lot of trouble. But it's a renaissance. I think that's history has taught us this, right? Things like this happen in a weird way, and there's always time to in life that something shakes us to the core of our existence, and we have to evolve, and we have to adapt, and we have to rise like the phoenix. And I think that we in our industry took a lot of things for granted, and now it's about it's nature or the universe or however you want to call it teaching us a big lesson about many things. And I think that for all of us it's been a big lesson, and I think that now we have had some time to really think a lot of things through about food waste, about sustainability, about what is really needed, about so many different things. So I think that as devastated as I am, and as every day I'm like, okay, another day, what else can I do to help, what for my community and for my industry, I am excited to see what's going to come out of it on the other side.
I'm with you. I think that's a great way to be about it. And Chef Daniel, tell us.
Well, I don't have any crystal ball, but I know that we have learned a severe but maybe very human lesson in what happened here, and how fragile and vulnerable our industry is, and how can we, come out of this. And I've learned. I mean, I fear for many business linked to our world of hospitality. I mean, the bars, the places where we used to gather with absolutely no worry, and today become a real question. And restaurant, I think we're going to come to a normalcy, I hope. And but it's important also to make sure that our community, we look at the diversity in our team. I mean, it take work, it take investment, it's not a question of time. I think it's a question of willing, wanting, and doing what you have to do right for your business, but also for the people who live with you, live around you, and how much can you do more for your community. I think it's very important. We have all learned through it that everybody is going through some rough time, but we are all looking forward to rejoice and do it in a way that we give opportunity as well. We keep giving opportunity. I'm opening a new restaurant in 2021. So I feel it's exciting because I'm going to be able to bring more people to work. And like Grace said, New York, we get a little bit, we have a lot of work in front of us to make that city bounce again the way it used to bounce. We're going to miss our tourists for most half of the year. So we hope that by the fall, we have seen the hotel filling up, the Broadway show starting up, the culture, the art, and the tourism in New York is so important. It's vital for the restaurant business. And we hope to have that, and we will do anything in our power to bring people back and make them feel good. So, we day by day, we make sure we push hard so we have a better day tomorrow.
Well, I think we should all make a deal. I think we should all plan on meeting when it's all safe at Daniel's new restaurant, and he can serve us some sous-vide dishes and some other dishes, and we can all raise a glass together and toast to a better new normal that comes forward. So I want to thank all of you for tuning in today, for joining us. This has been an incredible panel, once again, put together to celebrate International Sous Vide Day. It is an amazing food technology that can be used in the best kitchens and then also now in your home or also in the store. Chef Daniel Boulud, Chef Grace Ramirez, and Chef Kyle Connaughton, thank you all for joining us, for your time today. We know how busy you are. I hope you all stay safe and that you have good health and even better wealth going forward. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Everyone. Thank you.
Bye.